Class number 2. I want to talk now about beginning meditation, and the first thing we need to think about is the proper position for meditation. I saw an advertisement for meditation once in which somebody was sitting in a lazy boy chair with his feet up and his head back. Well, this is the worst possible position because you want to have a very positive mental outlook. When you lean back, you tend to be passive. You don't have the same alert attitude that you have when you're sitting upright. So the first and most important thing is to sit upright. The second thing is to keep your body still. The third thing is to keep it relaxed. Now you may say, well, but how can I relax as well sitting up as I can if I'm lying down flat on my back? Well, you can't, of course, in one way. But the thing is, your supine position is when you've practiced for a long time to go to sleep. And in fact, you'll find that if you can keep your spine straight and you can get used to having the muscles to keep the back in that position, that it won't take long before the whole body can be relaxed. And that sense of uprightness is a part of your relaxation, because what you're doing is not only relaxing the body, but directing the energy upward. And keeping the spine straight like this enables you to have that upward kind of relaxation instead of merely a collapsing kind of relaxation. We'll go more into that. First of all, I want to show you a variety of positions in which you can sit. Now, this position is one that many people can assume very comfortably. Sitting cross-legged with the leg up on the other thigh in a sort of a half lotus position, as it's known. Another position would be a full lotus, but I'm not going to take you into that one. What I'd rather take you into is one that would be perhaps more easy for you to practice, which is known as the perfect pose, or Siddhasana. For many of you, these positions may be difficult, in which case a simple tailor position is good. You can just cross your legs like that. The only thing is that in this position, after a while, the pressure of the foot against the outer part of the lower part of the leg will tend to make your legs go to sleep. And so also it tends to throw you backward more and to create a little bit more tension in the back. So these other positions are actually better. You can also simply put one foot in front of the other and relax them without actually putting them in the more formal position that I mentioned. If you're interested in getting a meditation seat, you can write to our publisher and get them. To sit on one of these is also an easier way of getting your body to be completely relaxed and yet in a firm position like this. There's another thing that the publishers make, which is known as a meditation seat, meditation bench, and you can sit in it this way. When you sit, and as long as you've got me in this position, let me show you how to hold the body. The chest should be up. The back should be straight. You might almost think of your body as a bow, where the front of the body is the wood of the bow, and the spine is like the string that strings the bow. When the bow is unstrung, then it goes like this. As soon as you string the bow, you've got this arch here, and you can feel that spine. In fact, you're going to learn in these lessons how important it is to feel the spine and to feel the energy actually moving in the spine. Now, I'd like to show you another position which will be easier for you probably, and one that Westerners, particularly with these Western knees that we're born with, might find easier for a long period of time, and that is simply sitting in a chair. I'll show you how. The position that most people in the West find the most comfortable is sitting in a chair. Make sure it's an armless chair, because then you can have your elbows out more easily. Place your hands palms upward on the thighs at the junction of the abdomen. Bring your shoulder blades a little bit together, not tightly together, but just enough to sort of corrugate your back so that it will be easier to keep it upright. And keep your feet flat on the floor. chin parallel to the ground, your chest up, as I said earlier, and just be in this position. It's a very easy one to assume. Now, there are several things that would help you. Each one of them is not terribly important, but altogether they actually add up to making it a lot easier. One is if you would have a woolen blanket and run it down over the back of your chair, over the seat of your chair, and under your feet. The yogis in ancient times discovered that an animal fur of any kind has an insulating effect against certain subtle currents in the earth that tend to pull the consciousness, the energy downward. And what you're going to be trying to do in meditation is lifting it upward toward the heaven within. In fact, the ancient traditions used deerskin or something like that, but a woolen blanket is a perfectly good Western and modern day adjustment to that old way of doing it. If you want to be really super careful and exact about these things, then you can even cover the wool with a silk cloth, which actually helps to insulate even more. Another thing that's helpful is to face east as you meditate. North is okay, any direction is acceptable, but you will find that there are certain currents from the east and in a different way from the north that help to calm your mind, to focus your mind and direct it at the point between the eyebrows, which is what we'll be doing later on. It's the position most suited for achieving enlightenment. In fact, you can meditate facing south, west, any way you want to, sitting in any direction you want to, but these are little helps, and as each one is added to the other, the whole becomes a much greater benefit to you and advantage. One thing that you will find extremely helpful is to have a place that you set aside and don't ever do anything there but meditate. I don't know if you know much about vibrations, but every thought that you have, in fact, science has discovered that the whole universe is made of vibrations. Vibrations of matter, vibrations of feeling, vibrations of consciousness. Every time you think, there's a vibration that goes out from you. And it permeates to some extent the atmosphere of the house or the ambience where you go. If you go into places where people have meditated, prayed very deeply, or if you go to some place where some great saint has lived and try to meditate there, if you're sensitive, you'll feel a difference. You can go into a room that you've been meditating in for some months, let's say, and immediately you'll begin to feel more like meditating. When you go into the dining room, into the kitchen, the vibrations there are more of food. When you go into the bedroom, the vibrations you've created there are more of sleep. So if you have either a separate room or a fenced off area, let's put a screen, let's say, around the area where you meditate. You can put that in a corner of your bedroom. But when you go there, don't ever do anything there but meditate. You'll find that without too much of a delay, it may take a few months, but you'll begin to feel, just as you go in there, this sense of upliftment. Another thing that will help you in that same respect, more in a time sense now than in a space sense, is to meditate at the same time every day. By meditating at the same time, I remember, for example, I lived in India for some years and I had errands to run in Calcutta for a certain period of time, and when I was going into the city, I couldn't have a regular time for eating. As a result, it wasn't very long before I lost my appetite. If you eat at the same time every day, then when that time comes, you feel hungry. And so the same thing is true for any human activity. If you're used to doing it at a certain time, then that's when you feel like doing that. Sleep, for example, getting up at a certain time, whatever it might be. So if you meditate at the same time every day, then you will find that when that time comes, it's a lot easier for that period of time to put all extraneous thoughts aside. Otherwise, you might think, well, but what am I doing here? I've got all these other things to do, and you might find your mind drawn into restlessness. So try finding a time that is good for you and then meditate at that time every day. Other rules would be to meditate when you wake up in the morning. The first thing, before you get involved in worldly activities, busyness and outward relationships and so on. And the last thing before you go to bed at night. Not only are those times important because they're sort of the beginning and the end of the day, but also because the thoughts that you take into your subconscious change your habits. The best way to change a habit is to take an affirmation at night and take it into the sleep world. When you meditate before you go to bed and take that peace into your subconscious, it will help you to become a more peaceful person as a natural thing. If there's some habit you want to change, then affirm that change before you go to sleep. Take that affirmation into the sleep world, but make it a positive one. Don't say, I am not this, but rather, this is what I will be. I had an interesting experience like that many years ago. I wanted to give up smoking. I was 21 years old, and I decided that smoking just wasn't where it was at. And so I tried, but every time I drank a cup of coffee or enjoyed the nice full feeling after a meal, that desire for a cigarette came back because I had been used to enjoying the cigarette, particularly at those times. And so for a year, I went on like that, and it was like Mark Twain, who used to say, smoking is the easiest thing in the world to give up. I've done it 100 times, 1,000 times, I think he said. Anyway, I kept feeling, however, instead of, oh, I failed, I kept thinking, well, I haven't yet succeeded. But one night, after about a year of this, I remember just suddenly I absolutely had decided I would not. And I told a friend of mine, I'm giving up smoking, and he sort of laughed and said, oh yeah, we've heard that one before. But I really had made up my mind to that, and I carried that thought into sleep when I went to bed. I was already in bed, carried it into sleep as I went to sleep. And the next morning I woke up without any desire. I remember that for 2 weeks I carried a half-empty packet of cigarettes in my pocket and gave them around to my friends, but I never once from that moment to this, some 42 years later, had the slightest desire for a cigarette. You'll find also, if you do this when you wake up, that the first thing you do, you think of God. The first thing you do, you think of meditation. The first thing you do is offer yourself up to a high thought. Or you can also walk in place and wake yourself up. I am awake and ready, or I'm positive, energetic, enthusiastic. And in these ways, help to invigorate your mind before you actually sit to meditate. But before you wash your face and brush your teeth and all those things, think about these inner things, these higher things. Think of God. Think of what your real purpose in this day will be. Well now, the best times to meditate then are at the same time every day, yes, but the best times would be when you wake up and before you go to bed. There are other points to consider that are helpful too. One is to realize something that the yogis, or I should say go along with it, I can't expect you to realize it quickly, but this is something the yogis discovered many, many centuries ago, which was that at certain times of the day there are changes in the electrical currents of the earth and the atmosphere. You can actually feel this yourself to some extent. For example, at sundown. Do you notice at sundown how suddenly the energy changes? There's a stillness that comes over the air, comes over the whole countryside. You will find that if you can meditate at or close to dawn, sunset, noon, and midnight, I'm showing the positions of the sun, then at those times of change, at those times of pause, you will be able to penetrate more deeply into the inner silence. It's interesting, the Zen Buddhists have that classical question, if two hands clapping make this kind of sound, what is the sound of one hand clapping? The answer to that question, of course, is that there is no answer, but in the very realization that there's no answer, the mind is still. And in that stillness, suddenly, you can meditate. So if you can in some way catch objective nature or your own inner nature at that point where you're still, then you'll be able to meditate more deeply. Yogananda often would use this when disciplining his disciples. He would say something that was totally ununderstandable. And at that moment of stillness, when the mind was sort of stunned into silence, then he said what he really wanted to say. But until then, he encountered so much resistance of restless thoughts that he wasn't able to get through. So if you can make your mind just suddenly still for a moment, or if you can catch some moment in time, some moment in nature, some moment in your affairs when you can be still, that's a good time also to meditate. And in fact, it would be good to meditate for a few minutes just any time you have a little bit of stillness. It would help you also to have an altar. An altar is a focal point of your heart's energy as well as of your concentration. An altar can be without images or with images. If there is any image of a sacred type that inspires you, you can put that on the altar. Photographs of great saints and masters, put that on the altar. A lot of people don't like the idea of having anything between them and God. Well, the answer to that is, quite frankly, that they have a heck of a lot between themselves and God in their own minds. Their restless thoughts, their desires, their attachments, their preoccupations, their world of all these involvements and so on. And to focalize on certain beings whose consciousness was pure, whose consciousness was clear, it helps to be in that kind of influence. It helps to be with people who are spiritual and whose minds are calm, as opposed to being with restless people who just catch you up in their vortex and draw you away from your own center. So in this way, if you can have pictures of saints on the altar, if they inspire you, it's a good thing. If you don't, if you just want a symbol, or if to you the most beautiful thing might be a picture of the galaxy, anything that uplifts your heart's energy, focalizes your mind, is good. Another thing that you'll find helpful is maybe candles on the altar. There's something about candlelight that is inspiring, that's beautiful. Light is a good thing. Theoretically, you could meditate in darkness, but the thing is that in darkness there tends to be a certain lowering of awareness. When there's light, there's more awakeness. There's more to it than that I don't want to go into at length. But the mind is more protected when there is light. In darkness is a time when sometimes you're open on a lower level, and that may not be so good. A blue light is also a very good thing to meditate in. And if you want to have in your meditation room a blue light above you, that can be very calming. Now then, with these few introductory remarks, let us just sit upright. You sit in one of the positions I've shown you, whether on the floor, on a woolen blanket, or in a chair, the way I've said. Place your palms, your hands, palms upward on the thighs at the junction of the abdomen. Bring your shoulders back, your chin parallel to the ground, just like I'm doing right now. And close your eyes. And inhale, counting mentally to 12. Hold 12, exhale 12. All right, start. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That speed. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Immediately inhale slowly. We're going to do this 6 times. Again. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Again. Hold. Breathe only through the nostrils. Exhale. And once more. Hold. Exhale. Now inhale. Tense the whole body. Throw the breath out and relax. Inhale. Tense. Exhale and relax. Once more. Tense. And relax. Now lift your eyes upward. You keep them closed, but look upward and focus your gaze and attention at the point between the eyebrows. I don't mean cross your eyes like that, but just at a point, about arm's length, let's say, above your forehead. Focus your eyes, your attention at the point between the eyebrows. This is the seat of concentration in the body. We'll go into it again in another class. But focus there and visualize a halo of golden light. And within that halo of golden light, visualize a blue field. And in the center of that blue field, see a star, 5-pointed star. In fact, this is a vision that will come to you naturally and spontaneously in meditation, whether you visualize it or not. It's a description of what is called the spiritual eye. And when the mind is very calm, this spiritual eye is suddenly visible. Even people who have never meditated before know nothing about these practices. Many have seen this light and have exclaimed with wonder to me when I've mentioned it to them, described it to them. Concentrate now on that star and feel your energy penetrating that star. Calm your body, keep it relaxed. Feel the energy penetrating that star and going into a kingdom of infinite light, brilliant white light. Feel yourself completely freed of all cares, all worries, all responsibilities, all memories and plans for the future. You are living in the eternal now, in that infinite white light, surrounded by joy, surrounded by peace. Enjoy it as long as you can. And then when you come out of that state, keep your mind always a little bit looking back toward it and feel that underlying all the restlessness of your daily activities, there's always that realm of peace and light and joy. Peace, peace. Amen.